Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. As you know, Colonel Assimi Goita came to power in Mali in August of 2020. About a month after he came to power, he paid a visit to former Ghanaian President Jerry J. Rawlings. As you will also be aware, Jerry Rawlings was himself a revolutionary leader. That means he came to power by way of revolution. Exactly what you see happening in the AES today is what Jerry Rawlings did for his country. Jerry Rawlings came to power by way of military coup in 1979. He was a flight lieutenant. This wasn't no cheap soldier. He was an aviator. He was a flight lieutenant in the Ghanaian Air Force. He saw the corruption in his country, the decadence, and he decided to do something about it. He actually staged two coups. He staged the first one and handed power over to a civilian government. That civilian government turned out to be a disappointment. And so he staged a second one and took over the reins of governance in Ghana himself. Not too long after that, he organized democratic elections, ran for office, served 2 terms, and retired to private life. He was a husband and a father. Fast forward to 2020. 1 month after the coup in Mali took place, Assimi Goita paid Jerry Rawlings a visit in Accra. I don't have the details on what was discussed, but as you can see, they look like 5 soldiers standing together, shoulder to shoulder. I don't get the impression that the discussion was acrimonious. I will also inform you that almost exactly 2 months after Goita visited Rawlings in Accra, Rawlings was dead. I'll say that again. Goita visited Rawlings in Accra in September of 2020. In November of 2020, Jerry Rawlings died. The Ghanaian government said it was after a brief illness. And of course, as all illnesses went during that time, it was pinned on COVID. And so they said he died after a brief battle with COVID. You know, it sounds like what they did to John Pombe Magufuli. Rawlings was an otherwise healthy man. I was talking to a Ghanaian friend of mine the other day, and even she was telling me, the way they even treated his illness. Why take a former president to Kolebu teaching hospital? So anyway, I get the impression that they did not want Goita being mentored by Rawlings. They did not want him passing on the playbook, the knowledge, the strategy. They didn't want him sharing ideas with this new breed. They didn't want him mentoring the new breed of revolutionary leaders. And so he was deleted. But did that stop the show? No, it didn't stop the show. And here we are. Our three revolutionary leaders in the Sahel are still standing. But might I inform you that there are only three of them? Are you telling me, continent of Africa, are you telling me that we only have three patriots on this continent? It's my question to you this afternoon. Are you telling me that we only have three patriots on this continent? So I'm going to throw out this challenge. Right now, you have what we call the Alliance of Sahelian States, AES, the Alliance of Sahelian States, comprising Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. We need to expand the AES. Generals in Ivory Coast, where are you? Generals of Ghana, where are you? The leader of Niger is a brigadier general. The leader of Mali is a colonel. The leader of Burkina Faso is a captain. Patriots, officers, where are you? Generals of Guinea, take your place. Doumbouya is a puppet and you know it. Take your place. Generals of Sierra Leone, take your place. Senegal, take your place. Togo, Benin, officers, patriots, take your place. We want to see you. Stand up. What kind of sorcery are they using on you? That some of you military officers are backing 75, 80-year-old presidents. Nigeria, generals of Nigeria, officers of the Nigerian military, take your place. The litmus test, of course, is going to be your willingness to join the AES. We want this movement to spread. We want to see Cameroon join in. We want to see Angola join in. Kenya, Uganda, you too. The DRC is a must, is an imperative. Generals of the DRC, we want to see you. Take back your countries from these puppets, these house slaves. House Negroes who feel that the house belongs to them when the master is away. We need Africa operating. Let me tell you why this needs to happen and why it needs to happen now. We need Africa operating as a cohesive unit. And the reason for that is because you see the AES, only 3 countries. When France and America got kicked out of the AES, all they had to do was go set up shop next door. As we speak, Ouattara is negotiating with the Americans for a brand new military base for them. Traore just announced to his people the other day that the French are operating out of Benin. Ouattara is also harboring destabilizers targeting Burkina. So this is why we need Africa operating as a cohesive unit, because you could be trying to do your best for your country earnestly, but all your enemies would need is for your next door neighbor to be willing to destabilize you. And that will make it 1,000 times more difficult for you to really stand on your feet as a nation. You want your country to be self-sufficient in food. You want your country to be independent, truly independent economically, militarily. You're trying to fight the terrorists. You're trying to take control of your country's natural resources so your people can benefit. They don't want that. The neocolonialists don't want that. So they're going to go knock on your neighbor's door and ask your neighbors for permission to set fire to your house. Otherwise, I would say, just do the best you can for your country. The problem with that is that the AES is surrounded by puppets, house Negroes. They're surrounded by puppets of France and America. And that is making the security situation 1,000 times more difficult. And as long as you're worried about your security on a day-to-day basis, it's difficult to focus on anything else. Development, education, healthcare, food self-sufficiency, because you're worried about security. When is the next terror strike going to be? How many more drones do I need? How many more tanks do I need? How do I build up my military force? I need to ask my people to volunteer. You don't get a chance to focus on nation building when you're worried about your neighbors harboring your enemies. This is where you generals come in. This is where you colonels, you captains come in. We need patriots. We need to govern this continent as a cohesive unit. We don't need any weak links. We don't need any loopholes that our enemies can pass through. You're telling me the AES cannot find one African brother on the continent to give them access to the sea? Do you see what Benin is doing? After the pipeline was built, to transport Niger's oil to the sea for export. Patrice Talon started doing France's bidding. This is what we're talking about. And so we need to grab this bull by the horns. That's what we need to do. This is no time for diplomacy and so-called democracy. We got democracy all around this continent, and they're looting and stealing the hell out of this continent. So let's just put democracy on the back burner. We need to handle this thing. And we're not just calling for greedy military leaders to come and serve as tyrants over their people. No, this is not what we're talking about. If that's your idea, then go sit down somewhere. I'm not talking to you. We're talking about people who are willing to come together, who are willing to join the AES and expand it across the continent. We are not talking about people like Museveni. Don't let those ones fool you. A lot of them, especially since the latest events took place in Kenya, in Nairobi, a lot of them have suddenly found their revolutionary voices. A lot of them have suddenly learned the revolutionary dialect and started speaking it fluently. Don't let that fool you. People of the continent, some of them know how to speak that revolutionary dialect really well, but they are not one of us. They are not patriots. We're looking for patriots. Museveni, he himself came to office as a soldier. Same with Kagame. Came to office as soldiers. Every so often you'll hear them mouthing off at the West, pushing back against Western imperialism. You can't tell us what to do. We have our own values and culture. Okay. The other day, when Ugandans decided they were going to protest, Museveni got on air and said to them, if you do it at your own peril. If you do it, you protest at your own peril. You know what that means? You know what that means. It means if you get in these streets of Kampala talking about you trying to protest, I will kill you indiscriminately and nothing will come of it. Let me just translate that for you. Nothing will come of it. The other day, Kagame was holding a press conference. There was a female journalist who stood up and asked him, very humbly, very logically, why are you supporting M23? He proceeded to insult her intelligently. You journalists are not too bright because you keep asking the same questions over and over. And if you do your research, you'd find the answers. But you're not interested in the answers. You're just interested in twisting the story to fit your own narrative. We're not looking for tyrants. We're looking for patriots. If your people are afraid of you, if you've been ruling your people for the last 100 years, you're not a patriot. And they talk loud and intimidatingly, like they speak for their entire country. They don't speak for their countries. They just speak for themselves. Officers of the military, we need you to rise up and take responsibility for your nations. You don't have to kill them. Just put them on a boat crossing the Mediterranean and carry on with the development of your country. Kagame, Museveni, Ruto, Ouattara, Touadera, Denis Sassou Nguesso, Paul Biya, the whole group of house Negroes need to be on a boat crossing the Mediterranean while the rest of us carry on with the work of national development. If France and America cannot find puppets to help them, they won't be able to interfere with our business. And that's what needs to happen here. Gabon, Patriots of Gabon, we need you to rise up. You know that Nguema is also a house Negro. That was a palace coup. He fooled us for a minute, but we know. When France don't got no problems with you, we know. So, officers of the African militaries, if the AES were to expand to all of West Africa, then you'd no longer have just an alliance of Sahelian states. What you would have is something like an alliance of West African states, is what it would be. If it were to expand east, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Ethiopia, Eritrea, come all the way down, Gabon, Cameroon, Angola, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Mozambique, South Africa. Yes, South Africa. I said it. South Africa. Generals of South Africa, take your place. Ramaphosa is rich enough. And in his selfishness, he has sold the country back to the Boers just so he could stay in power. He should not have done that. He sold the country. So then if you were to bring it all the way down to South Africa, then you would no longer have just an alliance of West African states even, or West and East African states. You would have what you could now call the African Dominion. You don't have much time, mind you. We don't have much time. You don't know what your enemies are doing. We know what they're doing in West Africa. Y'all don't know what the Boers are doing down there. But we know that France is making moves in the sub-region of West Africa. They're trying to surround the AES with the help of the Ouattaras and the Patrice Talons and the Nana Akufo-Addos. Yes, Nana Akufo-Addo. That's right. I said it. They're trying to surround the AES and shut it down. That uranium in Niger is worth fighting and dying for, as far as they see it. It's worth colonizing all of Africa for. It's worth recolonizing the entire continent for, between Niger and the DRC. Yes. We don't have much time. Generals, Ten Hut, take your place.